and opportunities, such as Association for Operations Management at Worcester Polytechnic Institute, from where he also pursued his master's course in information technology. Today, Mr. Amritkar is here with us to guide us by enlightening on the topic of application and marketing aspect of generative AI. The marketing industry, as we all know, has been subject to constant flickering change. It has depended heavily on the analysis of bygone, ongoing, and prediction of upcoming trends, for which requires superhuman reactive abilities to keep up with the pace of the market. This is where generative AI steps into the rescue. It has the quality to mint unique and accurate analysis from these extensive data sets much faster and more accurately than traditional methods, enabling marketers to uncover patterns, trends, and correlations that would otherwise be difficult to identify. Moreover, it can help in predictive modeling using huge data sets, including historical data, to anticipate future trends and outcomes, enabling organizations to address potential challenges and seize opportunities proactively. With this being said, I would now like to invite Mr. Amritkar to elucidate further.
Awesome. Thanks, Sambhavi. Thanks for that introduction. Very kind of you. Also, um, and I think you mentioned generative AI already, but I'd like to emphasize that we are looking at data analytics and AI as a whole, right? Because like it's interdependent and correlated. So let's jump right into it. And if you have any questions at any point, feel free to interrupt. I might be on the sharing screen, so please do not hesitate to just unmute and speak up. No issues. It's not like a regiment session. I'm not going to go through multiple slides without interaction. Feel free to interrupt anywhere. All right. So let's get started. Firstly, thanks to Tamajit and others for setting this up and inviting me. Uh, I'm uh, I'm happy to be here and sort of talk to the future data technology and analytics and AI technology leaders that you guys are going to be. So I'm excited for this. Let's see where it goes. Before that, first, uh, many of you, and already I got a great introduction from you guys, but many of you don't have context on where I am coming from. So this is a little bit about me. That QR code is my LinkedIn. Feel free to connect with me over there if you guys have any questions, any relatable topic of discussion, anything of that sort. Please feel free to connect. So just a little bit about myself, right? I've been in data analytics and now AI for over 9 years. I was a data and analytics consultant based out of Boston, and went ahead to start my own company, Fluidata Analytics, in 2020. In my career and through my team of Fluidata Analytics, I've worked with 8 distinct industries, and we've completed 70 plus global data and analytics projects, right? And we've had Ivy League universities, top 50 clients, even Big Four consulting as our partners and clients. You can see some highlight clients here that might be relevant to you guys immediately, as they are some universities and other big names. That's a little bit about me. Moving on, for more context, a little bit about what Fluidata does, so that you guys get where I'm coming from. So I think like the team said, we solve business challenges using data and AI, and that's what I'm here to sort of put some light on, right? Again, it's not just about the technology and the business problem. There's a lot that goes between it as well, like the collaborative effort of working with business units, the best practices that goes behind building something like this, etc., right? So let's sort of think through it from a holistic manner. And maybe because of the time, and it's not like we don't have hours and hours, so it's going to be at a 40,000 feet view. But wherever you feel that there is a question that is more pertinent and you want to get granular about something specific, please do not hesitate to ask, right? um, cool. So firstly, let's start by bifurcating different terms that we've been throwing at each other today, right? There is data, there is analytics, and there is AI, right? I've put automation there purposely. We'll get to that in 1 second, right? So data, in its shape and form, is all the information that flows around in a business, right? A company can have like two systems of record, but some companies can also have 70, 80, 100 tools and systems of records that they are using. Each application, each tool generates information, and it generates different types of information that can be used for business decisions, that can be used for identifying opportunities. But to do that, you got to collect that first, integrate that first, and keep it in a structured format to make any decisions out of it, and also then the processing time, etc., of all of that. We'll get into that. So that's data, right? And what's analytics is what generally the front end users or the business users in a company end up seeing, right? Like, or something that's built on top of this data. It can be in form of dashboards, it can be now in form of NLP based Q&A with data, but it's essentially derived insights, right? You're uncovering patterns, you're predicting trends, and you're aiding strategic business users in decision making, right? It's, think of it like as a layer where it's the most interactive way for a business user to ask a question and get a response, right? That's essentially analytics. But uh, operational analytics is ask a question, get a response. But when you see predictive trends or some sort of predictive analytics engine, that is when the user is asking a question but getting back recommendations and answers in return. So it's a slight difference there, but at the end of the day, it's businesses using a bunch of and data visualizations and answers to make decisions, right? Now we come to AI, which is the most talked about thing in the past year and a half or so after ChatGPT has come out. But, like, I mean, obviously ChatGPT is AI, ChatGPT is amazing, I use it every day, but that's not the limit of AI, right? Like, most people correlate natural language based LLMs as AI, but that's not the case, right? Let's go back to the definition of what AI is in terms of software for now. Let's not get into all sorts of robotics and stuff. Let's keep that aside, right? What we are trying to do with AI and how it's different from automation is that you are performing tasks that require human intelligence in a subjective fashion, right? Like, for example, problem solving, right? If you have a particular case study given to you to solve, you would solve it in a different way, your teammate would solve it in a different way, I would solve it in a different way. So that's where AI engines come in. You train them in a specific way, and they start mimicking the training, right? Like, as you and I have received through education, etc., this AI is trained through models, and now it's making decisions, now it's problem solving, right? Obviously it's not at the point where it's as good as a human or an expert human, I would like to say, in the field, but it's good enough to make decisions that might not be extremely business critical, or decisions and problem solving that can lead to very, very fast business critical actions, right? So that's AI for you. And how it's different from automation is that it's stream automation is there to eliminate anything manual that is tedious, right, and repeatable. For example, if every month a finance team at a company is just applying the same logical rules to their transactions to create their P&L, that can be automated through many tools in the market, through custom code, whatever that might be, through minimal intervention. That's automation. Obviously, you can put AI and automation in one place, where automation is eliminating tedious manual tasks, while AI is training to help automation wherever it gets stuck, right? And all of this again produces data, which can be collected, analyzed, and predict, like, used for prediction in the future. But it's cyclic, right? AI needs data. uh, AI makes decisions, which produces data. So the whole data analytics and AI cycle is circular, and more iterations of that circle, the better for AI, and better for more data equal to more training equal to better decisions. So, I mean, I know some of this might sound basic, but I just wanted to make sure that this is cleared, because of the whole trend of AI being mixed up with analytics, and sometimes even data and analytics being mixed up with each other. Are we so far so good? Any questions from anybody so far? All set? Yeah, Naveen, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I was asking how is data science difference in data analytics? Because most of the time I have seen people not going. I mean, what they do work also falls under the data science, but they showcase it as in the work of AI. So I got pretty confused. How is data
No,
science different
so see,
from AI?
data science is a, let's put it that way, it's like data engineering, right? Data engineering is a skill. Let's call it a skill for a second, right? Just for easier understanding. If I am a data engineer, I'll be able to sort of integrate data for you, make real time data movements for you, even make analytics dashboards. But if I am a data scientist, I know data engineering, a bit of data engineering, I know a bit of analytics, and most importantly, I know statistical models, that I can curate models that help aid towards AI, that help aid towards analytics. So it's not fair to say that data science is completely uh, separate from AI. Data science and data science professionals aid AI. For a simple example, again, keeping going back to like chatbots, right? Chatbot is nothing but natural language processing, and the program and code and algorithms written for natural language processing have traditionally been done by data scientists all along, right? So it's about, so what we are looking at here are concepts and applications, while data engineering, data science, data analysis, uh, and further on are basically skills needed to do all or some of this stuff. Does that help?
Yeah,
Excellent.
understandable.
Excellent. Okay, cool. Great question though. All right. So this might look daunting, but let's take a second. And this is by McKinsey, by the way. So I can obviously share this with you guys later to do more reading. Based on what we talked about, right? McKinsey, what McKinsey has done over here, and we have our own, proprietary diagrams and stuff of looking at like a holistic data view, or there are data fabric concepts out there, or an end-to-end data architecture. But this, I really love this one because it looks at Gen AI as an extension. It looks Gen AI as a novelty and solution all together with data analytics and automation in some cases, right? So let's take a look at it. Let's try and understand it left to right, top to bottom, right? Firstly, obviously, you will need data sources. Like I said, a company can have one, a company can have two, or a company can have 100 or even more, right? So all types of structured, unstructured data you want to first ingest, which is, this is all we are in the data and data engineering realm, right? You want to create your data repositories. It can be relational databases, it can be unstructured data, it can be graph databases. If you guys haven't looked into graph databases as engineers, I highly recommend you do so. Look at GraphQL and other such databases and concepts, right? Like so, because graph databases are very node relational in nature. They make relations from node to node, almost like vector embedding done in large language models. So those kind of things come into play from a repository perspective. Obviously, there is a vector database in which obviously there are embeddings and stuff that you create for Gen AI, right? But all of these boxes can either work together or independently given the use case, right? So that is where the data repository is coming. Now, for a second, let's leave data services and consumption on the side. Let's look at processing, right? Once you have the data, you want to process it. Obviously, streaming the data would mean bringing real time data in, or doing transformations real time on the data, or batch processing, which is more traditional in most companies, is where you have these ETL or ELT uh, uh, programs that sort of do batch processing once a day, once an hour, whatever it might be, which applies business rules to data, in other words, right? And then the data science aspect comes in, that we were asking and talking about, which is the AI ML models, machine learning, NLP, etc. And on top of that, as a combination with other things, comes the Gen AI pre-processing, right? Like you are obviously looking at preparing data in a structured way, or let's not call it structured because it's not the technically correct word, but data in a format, after cleansing, after handling data quality, which is data quality being the most overlooked aspect, which we'll touch upon in a second, is being processed, and it's getting ready for generative AI usage. And all in this case, you're also choosing your models. I'm sure you guys have heard of things like Hugging Face, where you have You have data models, you've seen open source data models, you've seen your, like, some people create embeddings themselves from scratch. Those kind of things are being prepared, right? So two aspects, which one is the data aspect and one is the algorithmic aspect of creating LLMs and other stuff when it comes to Gen AI. Now, which brings us to data services, right? On the right hand side. Now, data services, once you have a structured data, you need to consume it, right? And we've all heard of APIs and how they work. Essentially, it's like a connecting point to any data source which you can call or call data from or push data to. And you obviously have access. Now, the access of data can be done through like a simple SQL query, connecting, even simpler, connecting it to an Excel data source. But the traditional sort of way being having business intelligence reporting, now moving towards advanced analytics, which is predictive analytics or self service analytics or question based answer analytics that you must have seen with you should see with tools like Click, ThoughtSpot, etc. And then comes the Gen AI application, right? Think of, if I put chat gpt on your data, right? Like, as a company, if I put that on your data, you can ask it any question, it can compute. Now, the training of this, or the LLM prep, the data processing prep, has to be very, very strong. Even the prompt engineering, for that case of matter, has to be very strong for it to give you reliable answers, right? So the reliability of Gen AI applications for data consumption uh, on a large scale is okay, because it's more objective and it's more informational. Like, for you and I, if we look up on, what are the best practices for data engineers, right? It might still give you good information, it might not give you all information, it might give you more information than you need, but it might still give you good information, is what I'm trying to say. But the thing is, when it comes to like specific data, it might make mistakes, it might make calculation mistakes, it might make just retrieval mistakes. So you have to be very careful with data consumption on the Gen AI application side of things. Obviously, there's tons of research, even we are doing it, even we are implementing it, but we always ask our teams and clients to proceed with caution when it comes to, in right now at least, of Gen AI applications. But I think in a year or so, we'll have the right tools and the right models to completely trust it, like we've trusted advanced analytics from an NLP perspective, right? um, I'll just touch upon governance and control center in just 1 second. Any questions so far? Are we with me so far? So good. All right. I think we have a hand up. Go for it.
No, I guess that was a
Oh, that was
mistake.
a mistake. Okay, no worries. Cool. Let's keep going. So I want to touch upon data and model governance very heavily, right? Let's understand data governance for a second. Data governance. Forget what it says here. Let's look at it from a practical perspective for a second. Now, you have data, you have data models, you have ETL pipelines running, you have data engineering concepts running or projects running, you have your dashboards, etc. Now, governance is a practice of giving the power in the hand of your users, but through managing this democracy, right? Think of it as our government, right? We are a democracy, but it's managed. There are rules, there are laws. I can't drive on the right hand side of the road. So if I have curated the data, you can't use XYZ metric to compute ABC, right? That's a rule. So that's a policy, that's a rule. A policy would be you can't share that metric outside. Or data rule would be, okay, this information comes from here, this is cataloged as this is the business definition, do not use it as this. Currently it's this reliable, it's not reliable. Even from a democracy perspective, when there are hundreds and thousands of users in a company, a voting system can be put in saying, oh, this data has really helped me versus not. There's community chat, so on so forth, right? And we are also going into a setup with some product companies where you have a marketplace. It's almost like an Amazon like experience, where you search for data items, put it in your cart, and you check out, and like the engine behind computes all that data and gives it to you in an output format. It can be like a basic dashboard, it can be Excel, it can be SQL, whatever that has to be, right? So that's the concept of data governance. Very, very high level, very simply explained. Obviously there's a lot that goes inside it. Obviously you want to understand the domains that it comes from, the tagging that that data has, so that it's easy to search, easy to analyze. Also rules that you have to put on it can be automated. For example, an AI engine can identify that this data is uh, a phone number, right? So I have to mask it before I send it to anyone, because that's just the rule. This data is your Aadhaar card number, so I cannot show this to everyone. I just have to show the last four digits. Those kind of rules can be set up. I know there's a hand up. Just give me 1 second. I'll come right to you. And then thinking about MDM, although it's governance and MDM are generally spoken of in one breath, but the concepts are very different, right? MDM, simply explained, is the full form is master data management. But without making it too complex, think of it this way: you have different sources of data for the same thing. For example, if you are a retail company, you have your customer data in 100 different places. The concept of merging all of this data in an automated AI or even like an data management context, to merge this data with finding the commonalities, finding the connections. Sometimes there is no common key to link those, but figuring that out through multiple, let's call it algorithms, and I'm drawing a blank on the word, algorithms and procedures, is master data management, right? Master data management allows you to go across all your systems to combine similar data. That makes your ETL and, like, your data processing layer much simpler. We had a hand up. Go for it.
Yeah, Akash, I was asking how, as you said, that data governance allows one to gain opinions or regarding how the data we have is useful regarding something
Hmm.
to everyone in the company.
Hmm.
And wouldn't this be done simply by a form or something? How is it that we need a separate, a working model to do this?
No, it's not a working model, right? So, see, data governance tools, if you look at Informatica, if you look at Alation, if you look at Colibra, pick any of these, right? They do all the things that I spoke about in data governance, right? Your tagging, your searching, your business definition. And imagine over there, let's pick an example of Alation, which is a great data governance tool. You go in there, and there is a segment where you can rate it, rate this data source, or you can comment right there. So why would you won't need a form. The goal is to not go outside your ecosystem to share the data, right? Because the policy is attached over there, the data owner's name is attached over there, the data support team's name is attached over there. So all the information that you need, even at the simplest level, is all there. And at the same time, let's say we are 72 of us on this call, right? Imagine 72 of us vote good or bad, just like Reddit, on a data source. You know that this data source that comes as a definition, if I put in customer name, is most reliable as opposed to the other one, just making it up, right? Like, just you just pick the more reliable one. It's just like Amazon ratings once again, essentially. I hope that
Okay.
helps.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, awesome. Cool. um Cool. I think any more questions on this? I don't think we should get into data ops and ML ops in this case, but if you've heard of DevOps, think of it in a similar way, where it's continuous implementation and continuous testing and continuous improvement. It's like a infinite loop of continual, let's call it continual growth and improvement of, in this case, like the data assets, or the LLM or ML ops assets, etc. Right? So it's a completely different skill set to get into, but it won't help the future conversation that we are going to have in this. So happy to share resources later on these, but it might get confusing. Cool. Anyone else? Anything so far? So good. All right. Tamajit, speed is good. Slow, fast. Are we okay? All right. Awesome. Cool. Let's get into some basics, right? We spoke about this entire ecosystem right now. To do all this, you need some best practices, right? Obviously, this does not include the actual implementation or the actual development of all of this, or the architecture of all of this, right? Like the initial architecture. With apart from that, there are certain things that, let's call it, uh, people think of as secondary, but it is essentially primary for building something large scale. And this is, as future maybe consultants, as future data leaders, or future technology leaders, this might help you guys think about how a project is implemented, right? And I would urge you guys, once you get into the project for your course as well, to think about these things. If it's a data and analytics or AI project, and what out of this can you implement, even if it's at a small scale, for your projects, essentially, right? I spoke about data governance already. If you want to democratize data, you need governance with it, which includes policies and rules, right? These are the two key aspects. Everything else is secondary. Obviously, cataloging is important, because if you're democratizing your data, the people using the data should have a catalog of data and know the definitions and know the domain and the lineage that the data is coming from, right? So that's data governance. What people forget is, when people architect solutions, they architect it for the problems of today. Obviously, we can't predict the problems of 5 years from now, but we have to create the architecture such that it can incorporate the problems of 5 years from now. Forget problems for a second. Let's call it growth, right? For example, if you're creating, let's make it very simple. If you're creating a data warehouse, rdbms data warehouse, a relational data warehouse, and you're creating a Kimball model, right? That I'm sure some of you guys must have learned in the first or second year of your studies. Let's say if you're making a simple Kimball model, uh, is it structured in a way that if I add a data source, it can be quickly added, right? Or if I'm a company and your data source for that data warehouse was Salesforce, but now I'm switching to HubSpot for whatever business reasons, do you have to redo it, or do you have to just simply do some rewiring and you're good, right? These are basic examples of scalability in an architecture, not just from a volume perspective, but from a velocity, which is like speed of data coming in, and also from a change in business decision perspective. So you've got to think of it this way. Now, when it comes to advanced analytics, the best practice is, why I put this here, is that when we try to do everything at once, we fail, right? Because if the architecture is a baby and it tries to run, it's going to fall. So it has to crawl first, walk then, and then run. So first sort out, as a company or as a project, first sort out the operational part of things, right? What's going on in the business, what has happened so far. Then you want to walk, which is like the decision making aspects of things, right? What can we do now, what's happening right now in the business, right? Like what's happening right now, and make quick decisions based on that. And the last aspect of it is what will happen, right? Which is the running aspect, like predictive analytics, as we touched upon initially, right? Like how can we make better decisions, how can we make improved decisions by predicting 6 months, 1 year, 2 years in the future, and based on data, tell you what the business is going to do. Great example of that is churn analytics, right? Just based on customer and a user's trends, you can say that this person is going to drop off your app, or this person is going to move on, right? So on and so forth. So I think we are over time already, so I'll just quickly breeze through some of these. Again, real time processing is going to be critical. Batch processing is important, but real time is something that we all need to think about, and true real time is something that we need to think about. Security measures, you are not a security analyst, but as an engineer, as a future data person, you're responsible for following those security measures and being aware of those and being alert of those while using it. For example, masking data or not storing data in a wrong way, or so on and so forth. Data quality and MDM, I think we already touched upon, so I'll breeze through that. Now, just for you guys to get context, I've put this in. This is what fluid data focuses on, right? This is core of fluid data, which is all that we touched upon, right? Something that we've not touched upon is the strategy and roadmap aspect, because everything, all of this needs to be designed based on a business strategy. So that's where everything starts, which is strategizing based on a business roadmap, what a solution looks like, how well it can be implemented, most importantly, what's the ROI, is it even beneficial to business, so on and so forth. Rest of these things I've already touched upon, including analytics, automation, integration, and governance. Just one more thing is cloud modernization. Just know for a fact that, and especially in India, the footprint is very legacy of systems, of data tools, even business tools, right? So moving all of that to a modernized cloud or SaaS environment is a trend which is here to stay, and which is an important trend because most companies have stopped supporting like their own legacy systems. It's now sort of extremely critical that cloud modernization has brought into companies to stay on top of new features and advancements. Now we would we've learned what is data, right? Like, let's understand, this is from our research through IBM, McKinsey, etc. We've like collected a few data sources here, and we've put in why people are doing data analytics and AI activities, right? There are four key reasons. One is, the most important one is to increase value of their own offerings, right? Which can be a product, which can be a service. They are like, for example, Fluidata would use AI to create data frameworks and data solutions faster by, and in our case it's using AI to implement AI, so it's a little complex, but you get the point. And then the second reason, which is as important, which is reducing business costs. The simplest example would be reducing the customer acquisition cost by implementing AI. That's a core business cost for in the marketing segment for many companies, right? So that's one aspect. Let's leave create new sources of revenue. That can be, again, curating new offerings, etc. But increasing revenue of core business, simplest example is going out there fetching new clients through AI. Great example is curating messaging through AI, is curating personas, right? Like customer lookalikes, for example. Again, a fluid data. If we've recently worked with the manufacturing companies, we can use AI technology to put information about that manufacturing company in it, and curate a list of 100 customers that are lookalikes of that company. So these are certain aspects that data and AI is being used for. Obviously, the examples I gave are quick, but you can extrapolate that to different types of companies from there. Let's get into real life use cases, which is the most important aspect. And here as well, please feel free to raise your hand, ask questions. I have two very relatable use case for marketing and retail, and if time permits, we'll also get quickly into a higher education use case, which might like directly relate with you guys. So let's look at these two use cases first. First is Amazon, right? Like, why I picked this. Obviously, just disclaimer: these two are not our use cases. That's why there is no Fluid Data logo there. These two are just general use cases that I wanted to bring in front of you. See, Amazon, we all use it, and we all look at products almost every single day. Just so you know, Amazon changes their product prices by up to 2.5 million times a day, right? I know it has millions and millions of products, but to change prices 2.5 million times a day across various products is crazy, right? Why they do that is a lot of patterns of us as customers, competitor pricing like Flipkart, and whether the product is like depleting in stock, inventory, and all of that or not, right? And how the delivery time of this product actually is, so on and so forth, right? And there are many more factors that affect this. Now, how do they do this, right? Firstly, again, let's think back to our data structure diagram. First is to collect all of this data, right? You've got to process all of this data, and in this case it's hyper real time, right? So you got to process this data in real time by keeping watch on competitor prices, which is public information, shopping patterns, which is web and app information, and then inventory, like internal information. So imagine the types of systems that are in play here, right? So you're structuring that data in a form that can be used for predicting pricing, or even just having a comparison real time. And based on all of these factors, it changes by percentage, right? Like sometimes we see that even like in not in Amazon, but in certain e-commerce businesses, that the percentage of profit changes, but the actual cost is still the same, like 50,000 50% off now 1 lakh rupees, but 75% off. But it's essentially essentially the same thing, right? Like, so that happens a lot because of competitor pricing, analytics, and so on and so forth. Again, you can't do this as a human, right? So there is a decision making engine, and they just have to rely on it. It makes mistakes sometimes, which might cause loss in sale, etc. But that's the price that they're willing to take, because they can't sell a product for 30,000 that's available for 20 on Flipkart. It's just not going to work, because if you're buying such an expensive product, as a user, you're going to check both sides. Simple as that. So it's more, it gives them a competitive advantage. So just a, like, think of it as data collection, analytics, and then a bit of predictive analytics and AI on top of it, because you're in some cases guessing the prices as well, right? And obviously the AI aspect being the decision making that needs to be done, and that's the part where you're relying on it being maybe more than 90% accurate, hopefully. So so that's where Amazon comes in. Another use case, very similar. I think I touched upon churn already, but Starbucks, we all know Starbucks, or a coffee shop, right? Now, and many companies do this, right? Like customer loyalty programs, as we all know, as tech folks, is not just a loyalty program, but it's a lot of information of the buyer, right? Like when you hop on the Starbucks app, there is more information about you and about your demographic, and about your likes and dislikes that Starbucks has now, or any other coffee shop for that case of matter. So you want to essentially collect all of this information, use public information about your demographics. So what's the practical trend of a 18-year-old female living in Chennai, right? So those kind of things, and like going having an education in IIT Madras, or around, based on the location, etc., right? So that helps them map your life cycle, and based on like tons and tons of data for your similar demographic within the system, they are a good system might be able to predict key aspects like churn, because let's say, very simple, but like very very simplified example is, someone's not showed up for 10 days, and it's a school working day in India, or like a university working day in India, and but this person shows up every third day of university working day. uh, it's a, what do you call it, it's a sign of churn, right? Churn being like being left out. So then you got to get into next best action. Maybe I send you a notification saying, hey, you get this offer if you come in today. We've not seen you for 3 days. I don't think Starbucks does that, but I'm just giving you a simplified example of aspects of churn. I don't know how, what they do in terms of next best action. I'm sure that's proprietary to them, but this is how next best action works basically. And offers are also driven very, very similarly. um, does this help so far? Are these relatable? Any questions, anyone, on these use cases? All right, cool. Sounds good. All right. So this is from some of our implementations, right? So I just wanted to show you guys real life impact. Now we all can't go and work with Amazon, or with Starbucks like tomorrow, right? So there are startups all the way to scale ups, all the way to bigger companies that have customers. So we've helped them, and this is from, I think, one or two of the projects that we've combined into for a use case, but I got the impact portion of it separated. So what do marketing teams care about, right? This is what it is. As data engineers and even consultants, this is what you guys can provide to these companies in the future, which is complete visibility into the customer's journey, which is important. You need to understand your customer from start to finish being becoming a more spending customer, or it can also mean just someone that has gone off your radar completely, right? Analytical actions like churn prediction, next best action, so on and so forth. You want to reduce, this is the most key aspect, right? For any marketing team, you want to reduce your operational cost and customer acquisition cost. You don't want to reduce your spend, you want to reduce the cost. So if I was getting 50 customers for 1 lakh rupees, now I want to get 70 for the same 1 lakh rupees. It's not about reducing the 1 lakh rupees, it's about getting the biggest bang for the buck, right, at that time. So that's what reduced CAC, or customer acquisition cost, would look like. And then also, we've not mentioned it here, but a lot of it gets into attribution, right? Like, so when I ran an ad on YouTube, I got most people engaged, and that's just an analysis or influence from that. So I'll double down on those. So attributions come from that. and increase in revenue due to informed and focused decisions. I mean, that's just obvious through client acquisitions and improved decisions on where you want to make advertisements and where you want to spend money. So obviously a typical project, the key aspects that you would deliver as a data analyst or as a data consultant or engineer would be reduced CAC, which typically we end up doing by 15 to 25%. You want a unified view of your customer, again goes back to the data model and architecture, which has to be scalable. And obviously you want to generate ROI through improved decision making, and this means the reduction in cost. It will include increase in revenue, so on and so forth. Any questions on this one so far? Like any on about the hows? Do we want to get deeper into what's and hows of this? Okay, cool, no problem. We can keep moving. So that is essentially marketing. Hopefully it's useful. Hopefully it gives some insight on what's going on. Now, I just wanted to touch upon, we've not talked about this a lot because like publicly these things are going to roll out for us December or even early 2024. But Fluidata works a lot around higher education as well, right? Our core focus is improving institutional efficiency and reputation, and also student outcomes, well-being, mental health, so on and so forth, right? So I'm just giving you context on where our solutions come from. And just I'm bringing this up because I was talking here today, in fact other people have not seen this much. We are bringing this up because I wanted you to see a use case that's relatable, right? So we are trying to cover the whole institution journey end to end, through admissions, teaching, graduate outcomes, inclusivity, big one, perception, and much more. But I wanted to touch upon just this one use case where we've actually partnered with close friends of ours, which is Career Genie. You guys can go to their website and learn more. Feel free to do so. And this is a part of our solution. We implement this at universities. But I wanted to you guys to see this right now. Don't think of it as I should go and use this for a second. If you want to do it, do that later. Doesn't matter. Think of this as a understandable use case of data, AI, and analytics coming together. I've brought this. That's why. Now let's first understand what this implementation does. Right? Imagine you have the power in your hands to put up your resume. Based on that, it reads your skills. You put in your interests. I like working remotely. I like this industry. I like this kind of work environment, so on and so forth. And it starts giving you uh, AI based personalized career recommendations, right? You should be a front end developer because you like design and development, or working remotely, whatever, right? So multiple, and it pops up like recommendations pop up, which you hit like and dislike for. And then beyond that, it does market data integration, be it skills, be it jobs, whatever it might be, and creates AI recommendations to show you, okay, learn this, right? These are relevant resources. Here's guidance. Learn this to become a data and analytics consultant with Fluidata, right? Here's a course by Fluidata themselves. So that might be the people they've hired in the past are look like this. So you might be able to get the job there. And then obviously extreme personalization for growth, right? Instead of carpet bombing through applying to 100 companies, you might want to like narrow it down to 10, 5 or 10 which are really really suited to you, and then you apply to them. That means there is extreme personalization on your end and their end as well, on the company side. That it makes it easier for them to select you. It makes it easier for you to apply. Now, as you understand this, because you are in a phase or will be in a phase where you'll be applying for jobs, so I'm sure it's relatable. But let's take a step back and see what all happened here. We took market data from companies, we took market data from jobs, we took market data from trends, just literal trends of where market is going. Let's say research from McKinsey. We took information from your university, we took information from your resume, integrated all of this data, right? Analyzed it, showed you through analysis, showed you what is relevant in this case, or what can happen from a predictive analytics perspective. If you even see in the screenshot, we don't have time for a video demo, but if you see in the screenshot, like it's 80% matching this person's needs. So that's the analytics part of it, because it's a number. It predicts how much you are likely to match. So that's the analytics aspect. And then obviously the AI aspect being the extreme personalization, almost having like a mentor on the phone, on the app, through a chat that is hyper personalized, that is built from the ground up, not just like chat GPT, but built from the ground up, to give you relevant resources and guidance to do it, and then map a path that looks something like this. I don't know how visible it is to actually getting there, right? So think of it this way. We talked about three key aspects, which is data analytics and AI, and this is just one thing, just one small thing from our use case that is that required a team to build this, right? Like which is career Genie, and we are doing the data integration for them, and we are also always implementing this with always going to be implementing this with our customers, and we seek to, obviously the business value is not just improving the outcomes for students from a perspective of, okay, you can now apply to relevant jobs, companies can select relevant candidates, but imagine the mental impact. I mean, you guys know this better than I do because my student days are well behind me now, but imagine the imagine the impact. Right now you don't have 100 companies to worry about, or you don't have the peer pressure of applying to all of these companies. You are on your own trajectory, a personalized growth path that is obviously relaxing from a mental health perspective, gives you more time to do other things, frees up time, which then obviously improves academic outcomes, etc., etc. There are many implicit benefits of that, but what's happening is you're improving the graduation outcome, right? You're getting a relevant job that you would more likely be happy with, as opposed to just picking a company. And it's related to the culture, related to the skills, etc., that you would prefer. So that's where we are coming from with this, right? Like, so i'm I'm not trying to give you the benefits of this, but I'm trying to show you what the business use case is, what it takes to implement that, and then what goes behind it. Obviously the secret sauce cannot be revealed or cannot even be discussed in 10 minutes, but I'm just trying to give you what it looks like in the background. Hope that helps. Any questions on this? All right.
Yes, sir. Just a question.
Yes, please.
Uh, Sir, what do you think that businesses might face a challenge while adopting this Gen AI? Because in India or in our country, there is a lot more conventional business than that using or adopting these technologies easily.
Yeah, great question. I'll give you a two-part answer because you asked a two-part question. The first is, what challenges people will face in adopting Gen AI is going to be the trustworthiness of Gen AI and data security, right? Like how you build, if you use open source, how you source it, where your data is going, how you're structuring it, is it getting spilled out? Those kind of things is very important. Security and the trustability. Is it accurate? Have you trained it correctly? Will it calculate things correctly? So that's one aspect. The second part of your question is the third aspect, which is the preparedness to do something like this. Like you said, there are like traditional businesses, or like, very on the paper calculation type of
Yes.
businesses in the market. For them, like, I go back to my conversation when I said you have to crawl first, and then you'll walk, and then you'll run. Running is Gen AI. So you have to get your data first modernized, right? Let's say cloud modernization for that case of
Yes.
matter, right? Like, go away from paper or traditional batch. Let's use a manufacturing company example, right? Go away from paper or traditional process management, go into a cloud based application. Use analytics to create a warehouse that shows you your current inventory, current sales, just the impact of your business, and then use that data to implement Gen AI or anything on top of that. So what I'm trying to say is, unfortunately or fortunately, given that you guys are getting into this, is that many companies are unprepared. That means there is definitely a need for what you and I do today. The thing is, the need needs to be realized, right? So the preparation part is the boring part, let's call it, for people like us who are looking to do more and more of advanced analytics. Boring because we've done it 100 times over, but very, very important. When I say boring, it's not literally boring, but like something that we've done before, right? Something that we've done 100 times over, but there is no going around that. It's like sport metaphor, right? Like the sports people practice every day, and then there
Yes.
is one match. So you got to practice every day, and then the AI match will come in most businesses. But that said, just because you mentioned Indian businesses specifically, there are a lot of businesses in India as well that are growing at the rate of not, when it comes to AI and these predictions, etc. Right? Like, look at these startups, for example, Zomato, Swiggy. I mean, they have these AI engineering teams already. They have the workforce to do it, right? So there are companies that are doing it, but like you said, uh, and I said fortunately or unfortunately, about 90+% of companies are yet to be ready for Gen AI. Forget about doing it right.
Okay.
Go for it, Bhumika.
Yes. So there are a lot of ethical concerns related to it. So, for example, if there's a model that selects resumes for a company or maybe rejects them, that is based on their past data, and we know that a lot of discrimination exists. So, is there a way to overcome this?
It's a fantastic question. Firstly, there is a way to overcome this. It's about how you train. In that case, if and we would recommend this to every company that build this, and even Career Genie has done that. Like it's very impartial, right? Because you're updating your own resume, you're showing what you want to show on that. Obviously, it has to be factually correct for you to get selected, or for the app to help you in the first place. Because if you show 6 years of software development experience, you'll get a course that is advanced, and you'll obviously fail in that course or even in the job interview. That's one aspect of what you put in needs to be ethical to help you. That's the left hand side aspect. The right hand side aspect is the discrimination, which is generally what companies are going towards. Is obviously there is a social responsibility, and when you program something like this, we essentially make sure what is in our hand, and teams that are in our hand are going to not program unethical aspects, right? Are only going to program very factual based aspects. So for example, a gender criteria should not exist in job selection. Very simple, I mean very base level. Or even like a race or location criteria. I mean location depends, because some jobs are on site, but for fluid data it doesn't exist because we are 100% remote. So gender should not exist. So the language model has to be trained enough to understand that this should not exist. But at the same time, your ML model might make mistakes because it might recognize patterns of certain sorts that are gender related. But that is where you got to flag it as well. So that is where data validation comes into play, or even the part of the ML ops that we did not touch upon comes into play, which is your quality control, right? You train it with data, you train it with fake data, you train it with real data. You see, you do rigorous testing on these things and try and ignore it. Obviously, uh, like I said, it's not 100%. There will be a case where I apply to a place and get rejected, not due to discrimination per se, but perceived discrimination due to a mistake in the system. But somewhere I might get even selected by a perceived mistake in the system, right? So discrimination is, or ethics of the system is something that the company can control, but the mistakes is something we won't be 100% able to control. We'll always be at 98, 99%, but that's human too, right? It's also you and I can also make that mistake, right? Like, in fact, if you see it this way, if you train a model well, the preconceived of notions of a person, although they might not voice it, they might have gender based or race based preconceived notions, don't come into play here, right? So it might be a solution in some cases to your ethics question also. I know it's not a very direct answer, because the question was very qualitative, so I had to give a qualitative answer to that question. Hope that helps. Anything else? Any questions? Till you guys gather questions, I know there's only 1 minute left. I just wanted to pull this up just to give you guys a view of the future, and it's bright for you guys, right? Like it's obviously visible that it's more hard to find skills that we all are looking for, or at least some of us are looking for through this chat. So look into these fields, see if you can build skills in these already, and grow, and essentially hopefully even join Fluid Data one day to help our customers, right? Looking forward to that. And one last thing, I know we don't have time, just a quick look into a practical outlook. We've talked about most of these things, but the integration of generative AI and ML into existing data and analytics implementations is unavoidable. Cloud modernization, because of evolvement, is unavoidable. Data democratization is avoidable, but I advise against it, because you need to give, with so much information and so many things going around, with the right technology and governance, you got to give the control and power of data in the hands of your users. And obviously, to do that, you need active and involved data governance and very high focus on data quality, because as we say, garbage in, garbage out. So you got to look at quality as well. And then the advanced analytics and NLP aspect of it, which we touched upon. So these are a few things to look out for 2025 and beyond when you guys get into the workforces of our industry. So that's pretty much it. Once again, that is my LinkedIn, that is my email ID, that's our website. Feel free to get in touch with me about any questions. I think it's possible to take one or two more. I can stay for a couple of minutes, but then I do have to run for my next call. Anyone?
Anybody who has a question can raise their hands.
I think there are two hands up. Go for it. Rupesh, go for it first because Naveen has asked questions already.
Yeah. So my question is like, how would you like to describe the current scenario or the status of the generative AI?
It's different for every industry. In one word, I would define it as evolving. It's not there yet, for from a practical usage perspective, but from an individual usage perspective, I think we are seeing its power through like ChatGPT, and now even with Career Genie as an example, and many other apps that help us. But at an enterprise level, we are still evolving, and like I said, there is more that these companies are doing in the background than we realize. Is what I would leave it at right now.
Okay. Thank.
All right. Naveen, then Shambhavi, and then we can close maybe.
Yeah, Akash, I have last question. The As you were showing Career Genie, the the working technique and the what work does it do? I was I mean it reminded me of the LinkedIn update that is going to happen or probably happen. It is doing the same thing. So my question is, how should we, suppose I bring up with an idea and I do work into it and I breaking it into existence. Now with its usage, some other tech giant copied it into their system as well. So essentially bring out my model and my thing in out of the market usage. So how is it we can bring out customers or users to at least develop and test and spread it into the market, because that also falls under marketing,
Yeah,
and the tech giant are
absolutely.
already swept up that area.
Absolutely. It's a great question, and it's an excellent question for Abhi, the founder of Career, our partner Career Genie. But I would like to, because I know him closely and I know the product, I know LinkedIn is doing some of it, but you must have heard of something called, if you see something good, make it better. That's the case of Digital Genie over here, right? Like it has catered focus on career pathways, right? It's built for students and universities to make a career pathway out of it, as opposed to just jobs and linking jobs to candidates. There is more to it. There is learning, there is pathways, and the learning is not just restricted to, let's say, a LinkedIn learning or something. Even Fluidata can have a course if we sign up with Career Genie, right? Even IIT Madras can have a course with them, just for the betterment. So I mean, obviously the features, I won't get into how it competes with a LinkedIn. It's more of a university to university discussion. Like when we implemented at universities, no one's implementing LinkedIn there, right? Like this is a university owned, there are ethics implied, there are systems implied system with an integration that we do it. That's a completely separate segment. But as a user also, like you said, it's all about marketing and showing the features which you've done better than your predecessor or the giant in that case. Cool.
Thank
Shambhavi?
you, Akash, for
No
the
worries.
wonderful
Thank you.
session and answering all of our questions.
Absolutely. Go for it, Shambhavi.
Right. So I just had a question, and while you were speaking, you mentioned a line, and you said that using AI to implement AI, right?
Yeah.
And it got me thinking to the other side of this, that often when I speak to employees working with generative AI, I hear them talking about the downsides of it. So, a
Hmm.
very broad question would be, often when I see it, I look into people thinking about copyright infringement is a very common problem with Gen AI. So, how would you respond to the potential downsides that AI has,
Yeah.
generative AI has?
again, it depends on what you're using, right? Like, say for example, if we are using chat gpt, we avoid putting in anything proprietary. Nothing against chat gpt, but it's not built by us, right? We don't own what happens with the systems there, so we don't put in anything proprietary. For, like, for us, let's say a data engineer is working on it, they won't put the client name or the data, etc., in gpt. They would just put, I'm facing this problem in python programming, which uh, which library should I use, and then experiment from there. It's just speeding up the thinking process, as opposed to like the misuse of GPT, or the wrong use, in my opinion, of GPT is just taking everything proprietary, improprietary, and just dumping it into that chat box and expecting an answer. Instead, ask it questions, use it to reduce your Google searches from 25 to one query in GPT, right? So I'm giving you a very simple example, but it's up to you as a user to control how much you give, and the more you give, the more vulnerable you are. So you got to be smart about how you use it. Unless you've built it in house and it's hosted and controlled everything in house, then obviously you can be more lenient with that.
Right, right. Thank you, sir.
No, absolutely. Cool. All right, awesome. I think this was great. Thanks for having me, guys. I hope this was useful and valuable.
Absolutely, sir. Thanks for joining.
Hey, sorry guys, I disconnected by mistake. No, I was just saying thanks for having me. I hope
Yeah,
this was useful, and I hope to see you all sometime soon again, maybe even in person. And all the best for what's in the future. Feel free to stay connected. Follow the Fluidata page. Looking forward to collaborating with you guys.
yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you for joining the
See you.
session.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah,
Thanks for setting this up. Take care.
yeah. Thank you, guys. Thanks for joining the session. Have a nice day.